Welcome to the Edinburgh Bookshop. On the sofa here with Gabriel Hemery and your fantastic new book, Green Gold. Would you like to read a little bit from the book?
I'd love to, yeah, thanks for welcoming me. I'm going to read a section that is called Blue Lake. It's from 22nd of August 1852, and it's a journal entry. Leaving the Umpqua River behind, and after climbing past a series of tumbling waterfalls, I continued my ascent, seeking a ridge to gain a vantage point. Eventually, I found myself looking across a most extraordinary lake, high in the mountains. Its altitude is the least intriguing of its many features. The lake sits in a giant crater, its rim reaching at least 7,000 feet in altitude, being broadly circular and about 5 miles across. There seem to be no rivers flowing from it in any direction. The water is the deepest blue I have cast my eyes upon. For the last 2 days, I have explored its shore. It is a magical place where it seems the sky has come to earth, the clouds scudding across its glass-like surface. There's a small island to the west, connected to the shore with a chain of smaller islands. Today I swam between these, through a sea of giant water lilies, to reach the cone-shaped island, for no purpose other than to satisfy my curiosity. From its shores I saw what appeared at first glance to be a man standing upon the water. It moved slightly, to and fro, and over the space of an hour I observed it to drift a little. I supposed it to be a floating log, which, for a reason I cannot fathom, hung vertically in the water, its visible part standing about 6 feet tall. It only added to the mystery of this place. And the next entry is the 1st of September, a week later. The same great yellow water lily, which I first saw at Blue Lake, occurs in great numbers in the marshes here on the northern shore of Klamath Lake. Its flowers measure up to 4 inches across, its leaves are leathery and arrow-shaped. Large numbers of Indian from the Klamath tribe are harvesting its seeds, filling their boats with great quantities of the pods. Most are older women, but there are some younger women and children who work on shore preparing them. My arrival was met more with surprise than suspicion, even though I am probably the first white man these people have ever seen, and especially one alone, as I am. They wanted to see the contents of my sack, and when I revealed my journal, they immediately became excited by my writing marks and the various botanical sketches, pointing to each in turn, evidently identifying some with their own names and smiling at one another. I showed them my last entry, showing the scene of the Blue Lake, whereupon a sudden quiet rippled through the onlookers, only for it to be replaced with a few seconds later by animated conversation. Voices were raised behind me, and before long a quarrel surrounded me on all sides. One of the men in particular, his face rich with tattoos, seemed gripped with a fearsome mood, first pointing at me, then to the hills and back again, and finally shoving me hard in the chest, whereupon I fell to the ground. I'll stop there.
Great, thanks. And would you tell us a little bit about, we put that in the context of the book, like tell us the story of how that fits in and what this...
Sure.
What
yeah,
this,
who was this person?
Who is this character? Yeah.
You see, you may have noticed the language is a bit arcane. So it's a Victorian plant hunter called John Jeffrey, and he's very little known in modern exploration sort of history. He was employed in 1850 by the Royal Botanic Garden in Edinburgh as a plant hunter, and he's only 23 years old. And he had a contract for him to sail to North America with the Hudson Bay Company. He was to walk or go by a small boat, poling and paddling the whole width of North America, what we now call Canada, which is British Columbia then. And only when he reached the west coast of America he could start collecting seeds from where he wanted to collect from, which was Oregon and Washington and California. And I've marked his route, and he travelled 10,000 miles just to explore the region. So the interesting part that really fired my imagination was that he, as I said, he was very young when he sent out, and he had a contract to collect the materials, these plants that were very valuable to Victorians of the time, so the wealthy landowners, the plant collectors. Mm-hmm. They were equivalent in value to gold, so hence the title of the book, Green Gold. And he was invested in by these 200 investors, and the money from that paid for his expedition. And he was sent off with a contract to collect all these seeds and plants, send them back to Scotland, to the Botanic Gardens, and he was to record a journal, recording everything he did, where he went and everything else. Now, what really captured my imagination was that he did the travel. He collected about 400 plants, specimens, sent them back to Scotland. There's a few letters exchanged, but over a period of about 4 years, they became less and less good in quality and less frequent. And very mysteriously, none of the journals that he was contracted to write ever turned up. So these contracts you have this in the book ask him specifically to keep a journal in duplicate and to send both back separately. But this was never done. He was asked repeatedly when he was there, please send back your journals. Remember to do your journals. So what really intrigued me was to know that he achieved these things. He went 10,000 miles. He collected 400 plants, some are very new to science and now bear his name. But his journals had never turned up. And 4 years after setting out in 1850, he disappeared in New Mexico. So he'd gone that huge distance and just disappeared off the face of the earth. And there's a rumour that he was robbed for his scant possessions and his mule, but no one really knows what happened to him. So the book's about merging the fact from the minutes and the letters and the plant specimens, so you know where he went, which mountain he's in or valley or whatever. And I've imagined his journals. So that's where the fact and the fiction come together. So it's really a biofiction novel. So the passage I read was about halfway through the book, where he's in California. And it's really where the sort of fictional story starts to take over, because less and less was known about where he got to. So the final mystery is not solved until you get to the very end of the book.
Yeah. And historians will be pleased that you have actually marked the difference between the historical fact elements and then the imagined and fictionalised bits.
Well, I took a decision that I wanted to readers to have that ability if they wanted to separate it out. I thought that was important.
To it. Yeah.
And I suppose from my background, I was interested in the history and the quality of the science. Being a forest scientist, I was interested in that aspect. So I wanted to try and capture that for the readers, if they bear with me.
Yes. I'm sure they will. Yes, and there's a very nice and particular reason for you being in Edinburgh this weekend, and the Edinburgh connection to this book is playing out at the Botanic Gardens as well.
It's really exciting.
You want to talk a little bit about that? That's really amazing.
So the Botanic Gardens employed him, as I say, employed John Jeffrey, the collector, and they have a really good archive record of all those minutes and letters that were kept. So with their support, I used all those materials when I was researching the book. And quite early on I said, wouldn't it be great to celebrate this in some way, because even in the garden he's not particularly well known as a collector. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to actually work with them to put on a public exhibition. So that's what we've been planning for last year. And so with the garden tomorrow on Saturday, it's going to open, and it's going to be a 2-month exhibition, and it's going to be some archival materials from the letters and so on, but also from the herbarium. So there's dried samples of some of the plants that he collected and bear his name. So there's a famous pine, it's called Jeffrey Pine, after John Jeffrey, and it's a beautiful sort of a bit like a primrose plant called a shooting star. It's got backwards facing petals like a heavenly body, and it's called Jeffrey's shooting star. So that bears his name. So those are being captured both in the herbarium in specimens, but I've been collaborating with a fabulous Scottish botanical artist called Nicola McCartney. So she's done a series of paintings about some of those specimens as well. So people can come along. It's free, 10 till 5 I think every day from during May and June, and you can see the archive materials and the art and learn a bit more about the history of Jeffrey as a collector.
Yeah, that's wonderful, isn't it? It's a complete book experience with accompanying exhibition. How's that, eh?
So it'll be fun.
Great.
And it's been such a support to me, the garden. It's been fabulous, really. I think they're quite excited because next year they're celebrating an anniversary, and I think the importance of his work has actually been lifted in their minds too. So I'm quite pleased about that.
Yeah, nice. That's a really lovely thing. Yeah. Right. Would you like some questions? Lucky dip questions from the cat's hat.
This is a scary moment. I didn't throw that back because I didn't like it. What has been the best thing about meeting readers of your books? Any standout moments? Well, this is so new, it's only come out last week, that I've not yet met anybody who's read it in person. The first reviews have started to appear online, and they've been great to see. I think people seem to be enjoying it, so that's a great relief. I can say my last book, which was it wasn't a fictional book, it's a large tome about forestry and trees called The New Silver with Bloomsbury, published in 2014. I loved interacting with readers because it's a great privilege, I think, that people have taken the trouble to read what you've written and have some questions and enjoy what you've done or want to know about your next project. So I think it's been nice looking back for that, and I look forward to hearing more from readers. And I have a website, so I hope people will get in touch and ask me some questions on my website as well. And hopefully, I can take people with me in my next project, which I probably shouldn't talk about yet. But I've got another one in the making.
Oh, there's plans afoot.
Yes.
Great, very good. Yes. What's next?
What is your favourite aspect to the writing process? Wow, that's a great one. Okay, I think with this book, what I really loved was I've got a background in science. I like doing the research. But actually, I think for this particularly, the idea for me was to actually really get into the head of John Jeffrey. We don't know what he looked like, and we just had a few letters from him. So it took a while till I read everything, until I really felt I could kind of imagine what he might have experienced, if you like. And I've done my own bit of plant hunting. I was in Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia, collecting walnut trees and things. So I could kind of imagine what it might have been like, but not with the hardships he would have faced. So in this case, my favourite aspect would have been actually feeling I got to the point where I could really identify with the character that I put onto John Jeffrey. And actually then the flow of the journals just came very easily. So once I had the rigidity of the fact all written down, the arc of the story as I had it took on its life of its own. It actually changed from what I thought it might be, which I think was really enjoyable. I actually was living on a daily basis what he was going through. So it was very powerful, actually.
Yeah, brilliant. And you alluded there is plans already for the next thing, although obviously you're going to be supporting this one for a while as well until
I probably shouldn't talk about the other one while this one's coming.
No, that's all right. It's nice to have things in the pipeline. What is the next thing?
Well, I've kind of seen this book as a bridge between my previous book, which is pure fact, and this one being fact and fiction. I'm working on a pure fiction account now, and it's what can I say about it? It's a slightly unusual model. I think it's going to be about a conversation between a man and a tree. Let's see more than that.
Great. We look forward to it. Yeah, we look forward to it. But meanwhile, we of course have Green Gold in the shop.
That's great.
And if you're in Edinburgh, you can go to the exhibition as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
At the Botanic.
Yeah.
So that's really, really lovely. Thanks so much for coming in to see us today.
Thanks for welcoming me. It's great talking to you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.